to do some 24-hour streaming, I guess.
Technically, people are our computer kind of crashed like 30 minutes in, and it was the first time it happened to us at all since we've been streaming. So people are like, "You got to restart the 24 hours." I'm like, "Oh, all right, we'll see."
It's Murphy's Law with this stuff. Like everything that can happen, can go wrong, will go wrong.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for joining us, though. We really appreciate it. We're in the last stretch kind of thing, but it's our biggest day. And 24 hours, we really appreciate all of the promoting you've been doing for us and just like, spreading the word and all the good work you've been doing for Reg Charity. I know you are an ambassador for them. And I always, even before we did this stream, I always, noticed you were doing a lot of charitable work. And so it's really nice to see, and we appreciate, having you in the community. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to hustle and get the word out as much as possible.
Awesome.
Every time I go to sit down in a tournament, I try to patch myself up, and I bring like some pamphlets and just try to start conversations whenever possible.
Great. Well, thank you. Maybe for those of in the chat viewing who might not know who you are, maybe you can introduce yourself. Before we jump into some questions, and then for those of you guys who don't know, Andrew Barber, he has a 10K horse bracelet from the WSOP. He's a mixed game. Is it safe to say specialist, or you play lots of Hold'em too?
I mean, you kind of have to play Hold'em. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the game that everybody wants to play.
Yeah.
But I've always been a believer that you should be able to play any game in any room at any time. So,
Okay.
I mean, I tried to get good at all the games early on. So if I ever saw, a good game, a good, horse game or 08 game or deuce game, whatever it is that I could play in it. But yeah, I still to this day, I mean, most of my time is spent playing Hold'em, but I do find it incredibly boring at times. So I like to mix it up and play. 08 is my favorite game, Omaha High Low. But I do really enjoy playing all the mixed games, and I think that's like maybe the true intent of poker. I mean, that like when I think of like what's poker at its best form, and I think it's like friends around like the kitchen table, like learning a new game together, kind of splashing around and kind of figuring out the rules to a new game. And I mean, for example, like I sat in a 2040 dealer's choice game this summer, and there were like 3 games I'd never played before, and I was like more excited about the games that I was probably a huge whale in than the ones that I knew really well, because it was just it's um it's intellectually stimulating to learn a new game and like formulate a strategy and kind of check to see if your intuition's right or where you're going wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I think Hold'em has been part of poker for quite a while now, and I think Omaha and these mixed games are starting to make a comeback. And you see a lot of these professional poker players starting to get involved in these mixed games. And I think we were talking to someone else earlier in the week, and they said that there's a lot more gamble in the mixed games, right? So you get a lot of more recreational players in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true of the split pot game. The whole point of the split pot format is it's supposed to drive action. Um, but yeah, I mean, some of the games are like really intimidating to people. It's always, it's everybody's responsibility when you're playing one of these mixed games with new people to kind of make it as accessible as possible. Be patient with them, and not try to make it as you want to make it as an inviting experience as possible. So sometimes that's going to involve like explaining the rules or pointing out when they've done something that they shouldn't be doing or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm always excited when I see new people wanting to get in the game. I always encourage people to expand their horizons outside of Hold'em, and I think that sometimes skills cross over. I mean, I think playing non-Hold'em games can make you a better Hold'em player, and vice versa.
Nice. So who are you, though? I mean, who are you, Andrew? Who's Andrew Barber? Where did you come from? How did you get into poker? And what's something that maybe people who are watching right now don't know about you?
Okay, that's a lot. So if I forget something, remind me.
Sounds good.
So let's see here. I'm from Illinois originally. I grew up in Middle Illinois, Springfield, the capital. I went to high school near Chicago. I did undergrad at Cornell in upstate New York. I was an engineering student, and I hated engineering with a passion, but I was kind of stuck after a couple of years of studying it. I then moved out to California shortly after graduation. I played online for a little bit after graduation because I kind of didn't want to get into a job right away. I mainly played sit and goes during that time period. Let's see here. So then I moved to California in like 2007 to be an engineer, and I lasted all of like 5 months in that job before I was laid off or fired, depending on how generous you want to be. I mean, it was like around the time of the financial crisis, so I like to say laid off, but I probably was a shitty employee, so maybe fired is more appropriate. And then when I no longer had that job, I'd kind of picked up my whole life and moved out to California and was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I didn't want to go back home. I felt like, I didn't want to crawl back to my parents with my tail between my legs. So I decided to give grinding a try. And I was fortunate to be in Northern California kind of during the poker boom for that area. To give you an idea of like some context for how booming this was, there were basically a dozen places to play live poker within a half an hour of my house in 2008. That is no longer the case. And a random card room might be spreading 3 or 4, 5, 10 games, in 2008. And a similar establishment now would be lucky if they got one of those games. Right. So it was a great time to play. So I was playing live mainly. I actually kind of was a little gun shy because I had money stuck online during the net. I mean, this is kind of dating myself, but during NetTeller back in 2006, when kind of Party was cut off from the US, I had like pretty much my whole roll stuck on NetTeller. So I was wary of getting back into online, and I was playing live one day, and a friend came up to me and he said, are you playing online at all? I said, no. I was, I had this unfortunate experience. I don't think I want to go back to it. And he goes, well, I'll stake you if you want to get back into it. And to give you an idea of like how fishy we were as both a staker and a stakee, he staked me by sending me one buy-in to one tournament. And that was kind of like how he got me started. And then I managed to luck box my way to winning the tournament that he staked me for, the one tournament. So we kind of chopped up the profits, and I went on my way, and kind of haven't looked back since. I played sit and goes, multi-table tournaments, and during one period of kind of a downswing in sit and goes and multi-table tournaments, I decided to give shorthanded Omaha high-low a try, and ran like God, like nothing I've ever seen before. I think I was like 2 or 3 tabling, $2, $4, 6 max, 08, and I think I made like $3K in a week playing 2-4. And I decided, man, I think I might be really good at this game. I should devote more time to it, and I started obsessing over it. I was journaling about it. It's all I would talk about. I was traveling, around the area trying to find games in which I could test my theories. And yeah, I mean, I think I'm pretty confident. I'm like 80% confident in this. I think I've played more hands of 08 than any other human on the planet. I feel decently confident in that, given the number of hands I played online and how much I've played live. I'm sure I'll find someone who's going to tell me I'm wrong, but at least of the fixed limit variety. I definitely don't know as much about the PL08 scene. Anyway, so I've talked for a long time.
No, it's good.
Everyone likes hearing you talk.
One more thing that I would like to say is that a passion of mine now has been to get into interesting discussions on social media. So, you can find me often on Twitter or Facebook discussing politics. What was I discussing today? The ethics of vegetarianism. I like to talk about sports, economics. I'm in school that's another thing. I'm in school. I'm getting my PhD in economics right now. This is my office, actually.
Nice.
That I'm in. So if anyone would love to come chat about any topics, that they find interesting or they see me discussing, I'm more than happy to do so.
For sure. We have a question in the chat. Are you somewhat against Omaha 8 flips? Because they said you should let new people do 08 flips when they ask for it.
Pete Mall.
Oh gosh, yeah. Pete and I play in Bay 101. I'm never opposed to flipping. I'm always happy to flip. I would prefer to play straight up, but yeah, I'm always happy to flip. I was just on a trip with some friends, And that was literally how they killed time. Like if we had 15 minutes to spare, it's like, let's just run 10 flips. So I've got some real degenerate friends.
That's good. Um, we're doing this for Reg Charity, and we've been raising quite a bit of money so far. And you're a big ambassador with Reg Charity, and you're involved in, I think, more than just Reg Charity. You seem to be like a big charity supporter. What's your involvement with Reg Charity and maybe some other charities that are going on?
Sure. So I was fortunate enough, let's see here, the summer before I won my bracelet in 2015, I was actually looking for books to read, like before the series and during the series. So I usually try to grab a couple that I'll read on breaks or at night. And I'm walking through the bookstore and I see a title that totally jumps out at me, and it's a book by Peter Singer called "The Most Good You Can Do." And I was like, "Wow, what a ballsy claim that is! The most good you can do. Who are you to make that claim?" But it got me to pick up the book, and in his intro, Peter Singer mentions Philip Grusium, who is involved with Reg, one of the founders.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, this is really cool that, like, you know, there's this connection between, you know, philosophy in the charity world and the poker world. And I couldn't put the book down. And it really, I mean, it was such a compelling case. I mean, I went from, I think prior to that time, so let's see, 2015, I would have been 32 at the time. Between, you know, the age of 18 and age 32, I think I might have given a total of $100 to charity in my entire life. And as a result of that argument and some conversations I had after that, I was prepared to give, you know, the majority of my income to effective causes. So I think that the argument's that convincing. And I've only become more strident in my views since reading that. That was kind of the first of many books that I read on the subject. So anyway, so I read this book and I go down to the series and I see a couple people with these patches on, and I start talking with them. And I was fortunate to have like an amazing summer. That summer, I think I had something like, what did I have, 6 or 7 caches, the bracelet. I had a Player of the Year sweat going into like the last week. Yeah, so that gave me the opportunity to like have more conversations with the Reg team, like Liv, Bree, and Igor, and they kind of just welcomed me and got me more involved. And yeah, I just became a huge advocate, and I'm really glad that like they want me to be an ambassador for them. And it's just it's a topic that I really care a lot about. I find it fascinating. I think it's so cool. I mean, I'm a mathematically inclined person. I think a lot of poker players are. It's really cool that we have finally figured out to apply mathematics and science to an area that hadn't had it applied before. And I think in hindsight, it seems obvious. Like, why shouldn't we evaluate charities based on, you know, how much good they're doing on a per dollar basis, or how much suffering they're reducing on a per dollar basis? Mm-hmm. And regardless of how you feel about the specific charities that Reg recommends or that GiveWell recommends, I think it's hard to argue that their metrics or the philosophy of evaluating charities is a bad one. I mean, it's something that we should be applying to all charities. You know, you should look to see, you know, what are the costs, what are the benefits, what are the impacts of each charity, and trying to rank them and giving to the ones that are doing the best job, regardless of what the cause area is. I mean, if your cause is domestic abuse, you want to put a stop to domestic abuse. Maybe you've been a victim of it or something. You know someone. You should look at all the charities and look who's getting the most bang for the buck and give to them. I mean, ultimately, that's going to make a huge deal in terms of maximizing the impact of your charitable dollar.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people kind of oversee, and they don't actually look into that kind of information, and they think they're donating $100 and really they're not, right? Like, so that's why we want to choose Reg charities because when we are donating $100, they're pretty much getting $100, right? So it's a big impact and it's in the poker world. Like, Reg charity is part of the poker community, and we're around the poker community all the time, so it kind of suited well for us.
Yeah, it's hard. I definitely sympathize with the person who sees various charity scandals or just the seemingly exponential growth in the number of charities, and it's got to be incredibly overwhelming to figure out who to give to, who's doing the right thing. And if there's anything that I want to come from, Reg and the people behind it, it's that the people who are aligning themselves with Reg are some of the most successful poker players, some of the brightest minds. And if you are just confused and you would just want to throw your hands up in the air and give up, just find people that you trust. And I think this is a really good heuristic in all cases. Like if you don't have the time to do the research, find experts that you can trust and kind of go with their recommendations. And that's where I think is the safe play with regards to charity. If you're not sure what to do, find people who have dedicated their lives to this and trust their recommendations.
Absolutely. That's good advice.
That's definitely a good point. I mean, it's kind of, when I had the thought of putting together this stream, which I've had this in my brain for like 6+ years or 6+ months, I think. And I kind of, I kept thinking, I'm like, how do I want to do this? Like, I kind of had a vision of like, okay, well, I'll reach out to like, some pros, we'll see. I kind of honestly expected a lot of people to just be like, oh, I'm busy, or, not that I think that they're the kind of people that would, decline, but I kind of thought, it's the holidays, and, like, a lot of people might not know who I am, so they're probably just going to say like, I don't know, like maybe not. But, pleasantly surprised that, when we had the Poker News article come out, we had 4 confirmed guests, and now by the end of tonight or tomorrow night, we're going to have 13, and some of like, we've had some amazing people in this lineup, and that actually goes with your point about trust, is like, people now are going to see that there's so many people they can trust in the poker world that we have brought on, and they're like, of course I'm going to donate. And so, I kind of had this like secret goal. Like, I didn't really come out with it and say that I wanted to like try to raise 5K, but I was like, 5K would be a really good number, and we've almost quadrupled that. It's like, it's unbelievable. Sometimes I'm like, what, like 17,000? And we're Canadian, so if you like multiply that by 1.3, you're just like, that's even more in Canadian dollars. And so my mind is still so blown, and like I can't even believe that this is a thing. Like, I can't believe it's almost over. I'm just like, it's 24 hours is a long time, but it's gonna go by really quick, and then I'm gonna be wondering, like, I really want to go forward with this in some way, and maybe make this annual, or carry on maybe like a couple times a month and stream for charity, or something like that. So we'll see where it goes after this, but I'm just really grateful and really happy that we had the turnout that we did. And it has a lot to do with pros such as yourself that other people can trust. You might be busy over the holidays, and they're just like, what, we trust these guys, they're going to a good cause, and we're going to donate. Bill Perkins, like 5K, he's like, I'm in. He saw that the lineup, and he's like, what, I'm in. He went on and donated. Within 20 minutes, his 5K was up on the site. Like, just incredible. So
yeah, that's awesome. No, and I definitely, you deserve a lot of credit for putting this together, and I think that it's the kind of thing where it's the least that players can do. I mean, yeah. I think it's so obvious when you have the arguments laid out before you, for why A, charitable giving is good, and B, like seeking out effective causes, which Reg does, and I think that's why you see this outpouring of support. But yeah, no, it is motivating. I've really been excited to see how much it's taken off, and Dan Smith's match campaign is a good example of that.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Of an idea that kind of just starts as an idea that and then explodes and becomes this ridiculous $2 million match campaign.
I still can't believe it. I saw that on Twitter, and I was like, no, they hit the cap. I was like, we haven't put like all the donations in, and they're like, wait, but we're doubling it. I'm like, oh, thank God. And then I looked on the site today, and it's at like 1.6 million, and so like it's just it's insane. It
really is insane, and I hope that doesn't discourage people from getting like honestly, no one should feel discouraged from giving small amounts. Every amount, every little bit counts. And ultimately, if I had any goals from this stream, it would be, I would love to get like lots of small donations. I would love to get people just kind of thinking about this idea about thinking about their charitable contributions. Even a $10 or $20 donation is it's not trivial, because it puts into your mind the idea of thinking about charity differently, maybe taking a certain mindset to your future charitable giving, and hopefully you'll consider Reg in the future, you will consider the charities that Reg advocates for, whether it be against malaria or Give Well. Give Well seems to be a really popular one with a lot of poker players. I think they're kind of thinking outside the box. For people who aren't familiar, Give Well is basically a charity that gives unconditional cash transfers, literally gives cash to people who don't have it so that they can make the investments that are going to get them out of the what economists usually refer to as the poverty trap. And that's kind of something that some people doesn't rub them the right way. Others, I think they totally buy into it. It makes sense.
Awesome. Well, I mean, we definitely have like 1 cent donations because my good friend T Carnage, he's been transferring. He sent us like 51 transfers to PokerStars, like varying cents, and then he's just like, just kidding, guys, and he sent us like another donation through PayPal. It was like really funny, but it kind of like gets people. I know, it's awesome. He's been in the chat like pretty much every day and supporting us. So it all added up eventually. So it's a valid point.
That's cool. It reminds me of I think it was Stars, where if you wanted to run good, you would send like 2 cents to Negreanu or someone like that.
I remember hearing some stuff about that.
Yeah, it was like the run good 2 cents.
That's hilarious. We have somebody in the chat, Adam Kutch. He says, "Resume, please, Barber."
Oh gosh. Yeah. So this is a story. Oh my gosh, I'm having trouble placing his name. One of my first times playing in Reno, because Reno was the place to play tournaments before tournaments exploded. Like I'm so old that I remember that it used to be hard to find no limit tournaments, and now it's like you step outside and trip and fall into a tournament.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. But yeah, if you lived in Northern California, there were like 4 or 5 series a year that would run it in Reno at the Grand Sierra, which was used to be the Hilton. They used to have a WPT event in like the early 2000s. But anyway, I would go there like 4 or 5 times a year, and that definitely was how I cut my teeth learning all the mixed games. It was the only place you could really play live mixed games. But I remember I played '08 with a guy who, upon being criticized, he basically told everyone that he wanted everyone to rip out their poker resumes to see who had the best one.
Nice. Well, I have yours up.
It was one of the funniest responses.
I have your hand in my
man, I'm a nobody in the poker world. I luck boxed my way to 1 bracelet, and I'm so thankful that I did, because it opened up a lot of doors, and thankfully I get to have like an influence with charity.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm due for another score. I haven't done much in a long time.
Speaking of that, are you planning on playing a lot more coming up in 2018, or what are your plans looking like?
What are my plans? So I'm gonna go play circuit event. So I moved to Santa Cruz, which is south of San Jose.
Okay.
But I'm gonna be going back to Sacramento for a circuit event. Thunder Valley's become like a hot spot in the tournament circuit.
Yeah.
And they actually hosted 2 World Series circuit events this year. One was earlier in the fall, and then they're having one in January. I'm going to be going up for that. I'm going to try to do actually a little fundraising for Reg. I'm going to do some a coaching seminar before the '08 ring event and the horse ring event to try to do some fundraising for Reg, basically offering a seminar for an admission fee, with all the admission fees going to Reg. So I'm doing that in January, and then I'm kind of busy with school, but every summer I make time to go down to the World Series. So that will be when I play a lot. Will be in the summer.
Cool. We will see you.
Nice. Yeah, I was at the last circuit. So I work. I just started working the WSOP circuits for live reporting, and I was at the last one that you were at. I kind of saw a couple of tweets that you were in the field, but we more do the live reporting for the main and the high roller, and then I do the winner stuff and the admin stuff for the side events. But I'm actually still on property the whole time, so I'll be there in January. So hopefully, maybe I can hop in that seminar if I have a chance. That'll be cool.
Yeah, we'll visit. Well, at the very least, we'll visit.
Absolutely. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I guess that brings us to some mixed games. I don't know if now would be a good time if you have anything else to add. I mean, maybe we can jump into games if you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm happy to switch to that. I'm trying to think of the things I wanted to cover.
Absolutely.
Just for any donations that occur during this period while I'm on, I'm matching them in addition to Dan's match. So that would be like a double match. For every dollar contributed, there'll be $3 going to charity. So I would just ask people to be cognizant of that, and hopefully people will be generous. Let me try to fire up a table here. So I was kind of sweating the games that are going right now.
Okay.
And let's just say the day after Christmas is not the best for finding stuff.
Nice. We actually just got a donation in. So I should mention, just while we're doing this, we realized the other day that PayPal has been taking, I guess, some fees because the way that Twitch sets it up is they set it up as a tip, because I guess the regular streamers get donations as tips when they're streaming. And so what we've done is all the ones that they were holding, because we're in Canada, anything over $100 they would hold for like 7 to 14 days. So I refunded all that, and they resent them as a gift versus a tip. And so we've taken off the donation button from Twitch and put instructions for PayPal or direct to Reg Charity. So we did just get one straight through PayPal on my phone from Shirley Ang. So thank you, Shirley, for your donations. That's 30 US, and so we'll start keeping track on our end and let you know what comes through.
All right, so because I couldn't find anything right now, I was going to hop into small stakes, 5-10 game on ACR.
Perfect.
Great.
So let me, and then I'm on a I'm on a wait list for 100-200 while we wait.
Oh, let's go.
5-10.
That's awesome. 100-200 wait list. That's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to. We did our practice, and I knew how to share it. So I need to go. Let's see here. Okay. Now I remember what I'm supposed to do. I click this. I share screen. I click table. Start screen share. Okay.
Perfect.
There we go.
Cool. Okay, so for 2 bets, we can't really defend this cheese in the big. What's your guys' experience with 08?
It's fun. That's about it.
Hey, that works for me. That's totally good.
I mean, I actually work for Jason Somerville, so I go to his Run It Up Reno series, and I'm always reporting on mixed games.
Oh, I hear that's a blast.
You have to come in April. Like, it's just getting better and better. It's like, honestly, for mixed game players, it is an absolute blast. I even asked Jason, I was like, is there any chance in April I can just not work and come play and you can get somebody else? He's like, Aaliyah, how about if there's something you want to play, we work around it. So he kind of said no, but yeah, it's a blast. So hopefully you can come out to the next time. That's a nice hand. Oh,
yeah, so we can peel here. Like high only hands aren't that great in the out of position. Okay. But the double suitedness is going to make this playable for 1 bet.
Okay.
And then this is like just the worst, like the nut worst flop. So we're going to have to check fold this.
Awesome. So we actually have like a grindhouse going right now, and so we've got people. We're all playing, for charity and supporting the 24-hour stream. My good friend Mike here is an 08 absolutely loves the game, and so I'm gonna just switch spots with him and then maybe have him comment on some.
Okay.
Hop
We had someone in chat say that it's hard to luck box a horse or mixed game bracelet.
I've learned that being humble is going to take you a lot further in this game, so I'm just going to stick to. I mean, Ben Yu, when he won his first bracelet, announced that he was a fish on a heater, and Ben is a fantastic player. But
for sure.
You definitely score points being humble in this game.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we'll get some interesting hands here.
Usually, you do with 08. There's a lot more action in 08 than most.
Yeah, and shorthanded, I mean, shorthanded, you can VPIP like a ridiculous number of hands. I remember there was a period of time, like pre-Black Friday, where I think for maybe a month or so, I was VPIPing like over 50%, which I haven't heard anyone else coming close to.
Right.
The cool thing about VPIPing that much, even for just a period of time, even if you're losing money, it just makes you, it puts you in so many tough spots that you get really comfortable with playing tough spots.
For sure.
I've said to people that you know, if you can afford it, one interesting thing to do in you know, a low stakes tournament is to play 100% of hands, and just to get used to trying to play weak hands in a lot of different spots. You know, winning hands that you shouldn't be winning, or getting value with unusual hands can be a useful exercise. Small pairs are just like death in this game.
Absolutely.
Those are going to be like the hands, like few of the like auto folds I'm going to have.
Yeah.
Basically pairs like deuces through sevens or eights, pretty much like any low card. Those low pairs just it's almost like you're playing three card hold'em or three card Omaha. Like you're crippled by not having that card.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've not
The bigger
played
pairs
a whole,
are easier to play.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I've not played a whole lot of 08 myself, although I was first exposed to Pot Limit High-Low, and I love that game. I've studied that game a bit, but yeah, for sure. It's not really a game for sets.
Yeah, and I would say the big difference between PL08 and Fixed Limit 08 is PL08 you really have to be really careful with like second nut type hands.
For sure.
And in Limit 08, you can just get away with so much more. I mean, one of the things I say to like students when I'm coaching is I just think that there's so few pre-flop mistakes. Like if you can hand read decently post, and you are capable of making folds, and you're not just paying off every single time, it's really hard to make pre-flop mistakes. I mean, the hand equities run together really closely. Like that's oftentimes like a fun exercise is to just like open an odds calculator and run various 08 situations, and you'd be surprised how often you are, you know, maybe like 40-60 at worst with, you know, with hands that you would think are in really rough shape.
Do you do a lot of coaching?
I do a little bit. Yeah, it's, let's just say I don't advertise, but when people seek me out, you know, it's rare that I'm going to turn someone away.
Right.
And being in school, it's a lot easier to make time for coaching. And actually, I haven't made too much time for it recently. But it's easier to make time for that than it is to carve out time for playing. And I really enjoy teaching. I mean, that might be ultimately what I do with my PhD is teach.
Okay.
So coaching dovetails nicely with that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's also like a really good use of all the notes that I've made on the game over the years. Like I've just got pages and pages, and if there were any money in it, I would probably write a book on the subject. But A, it's too niche, and B, I don't know if I want to give away all the secrets to everybody.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's kind of the feeling of a lot of mixed game players is, you know, we already ruined Hold'em by giving away a lot of secrets, so let's not ruin, you know, the rest of the mixed games.
For sure.
All right. So this is going to be an easy defend if it comes around here for one bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll peel here. We can probably check call this flop. I think if the 9 were like a 7 or lower, we couldn't peel. We don't have hearts, so it's really likely one of these two has hearts. The fact that it checked through makes a strong low unlikely. Let's see here. Yeah, I think I want to fold here. The pot's because the no money went in on the flop, like the pot's smaller, so that's going to make it so we don't peel as often on the turn. So I think we're going to fold this.
I've actually played quite a bit of Limit Hold'em, and the one thing that I really try to focus on is like big bets, right? So making big value bets and big folds, even though it's only like one bet, it's a big deal because you're just kind of keeping track of big bets specifically, right? So do you kind of find that it factors into like Limit 08 as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think like a specific context or specific situation in which that's going to play a role. I mean, you definitely have to be aware of the size of the pot more in 08 than you do in. We can 3-bet this. This is pretty one of the best starting hands we're going to get. You need to keep track of the size of the pot for like your odds for peeling to make lows, like on 2 low boards and 1 low board.
Yep.
I would say real quick that like I'm almost never capping in his spot. Like I think it's actually really bad to cap out of position. That's kind of one of my more radical theories.
Right.
It's pretty much never bad to bet nut low when checked to. And given that he capped and checked this flop, I would expect him to have like aces here.
Right.
And if he's checking, he might not have the ace of diamonds. So maybe like ace 3, I could see him. Or maybe like just aces no low.
Yeah.
Oh, ACR is the worst. I just figured this out. So I don't play a lot of ACR, but
Okay.
the fact that you can't see villain's hand is so stupid.
Oh, really?
That pisses me off so much. You can't be rewarded for whether or not you whether you guess the hand correctly.
Right.
We should pretty much are always over limping 3 wheel cards.
Right.
I think you're almost never going to go wrong playing 3 wheel cards.
Okay.
In a spot like this, the pot is large enough that when it comes to us for 1 bet, we can peel for our backdoor lows. This is a spot where like I think a lot of inexperienced players are going to be folding, but we can peel 1 time to make a low card on the turn. And we do not, so we fold.
Yeah, the math I remember from studying in PL08, basically if it's high card, if there's only 1 high card on the flop, it's about 70% of the time the turn card's going to be a high card, in which case it's about 50-50 for the river to make a low possible. Or sorry, I think I meant the opposite way. I think if there's only 1 low card on the flop, then 70% for a second low card on the turn, then 50-50 from there for the river, rather.
Yeah, I kind of like I go a little bit by feel, but I remember what the percentages are. So on a 2 low card flop, if you have 2 low cards and there's 2 low cards on the flop, it's like 60% to get there by the river. And if you have like 3 low cards, even uncounterfeitable, then I think it goes up to 70%. And then, but the spots that I think are more interesting, because like you're almost never going to be getting a bad price for when there's 2 lows.
Right.
Like it's hard for me to imagine a situation. So I had a friend who I talked to on this stream who said if I won a hand with pocket 9s that he was going to donate. So I have to play every hand with pocket 9s.
Yeah, 9s is pretty fishy for, I would imagine, any split game.
Well, I mean, I got to peel here because I've got a gutter.
Buy the ticket, take the ride.
I'm just so glad that I'm playing, 510 and not and not 100, 200.
Oh.
Oh, do we go for value? I think I have to bet here.
I think so.
No, boo.
Man.
That was a little thin.
Hard to win with nines and high-low.
It is hard to win with nines high-low. Oh, so regarding the, I think I limp a lot of stuff in the small blind, and if people are, maybe like someone might say, oh, if you raise with your good hands and you limp with your crap, then you're going to be unbalanced. Well, this is really easy to correct for by just limping some really strong low only hands, like some low rundowns,
Yep.
and limp 3-betting those, and then you're kind of, it takes care of that. So when this goes check on the flop, like I think we can bet 2-pair here on the turn.
Mm-hmm.
He can literally never have a wheel. The best hand he's gonna have is like maybe like a low and a pair. But I think it's good to check the flop, because if we bet that flop and we get raised, we're never in like a great spot. So it's kind of like I guess the equivalent to Hold'em would be like taking a pot control line.
Yep.
With like a top pair, weak kick or something. I got to check on my bigger game. Oh, I'm back to what? I'm 1 on the wait list.
Oh, perfect.
All right. I like to mix in some 3-bets in this spot. I think that 3-betting here is better than flatting, because we benefit from cleaning up our equity and getting the pot heads up.
Yep.
So to like compare this to Hold'em, this would be like 3-betting a hand like maybe like King 10 or King Jack, where you don't want to take the hand multi-way.
Yeah, you're just trying to isolate.
Yeah. When it gets capped, we're not in a great spot, but even in like one of the worst case scenarios here, where like we're up against like wheel cards and hearts or something like that, we still have decent equity and we can peel. There's a small chance our live 4 is good, probably not. It's really hard for us to be up against a full house here, and even if we are up against a full house, we have good equity, so I think this is a good spot to raise.
Yep.
And we might just be paying off a full house. I would expect him also to go nuts here with like deuce 4-5.
For sure.
And let's just pray that he's not full. He shouldn't be on a double paired board, but he is. Okay, ace 3 deuce 4, yeah. So we're just unlucky that he happens to be full along with the deuce 4.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect him to go nuts with any ace deuce 4. So because he's doing that with all of his ace deuce 4s, then it's just like bad luck that we run into one of his full houses.
Yep.
It's actually a pretty bad cooler, but I won't emphasize that too much. How are we looking? Okay. I gotta say, I think I'm due for some run good, because I got absolutely crushed in the morning session I played today. So I'm looking forward to the pendulum swinging the other way. Oh, we were talking about the odds of making a low. I feel like I didn't finish that thought. So on the spots where it's a 1 low card, the odds you need with when you have 2 lows and there's 1 on the flop is 5 to 1. So like I guess that'd be like 16 or 17% chance. And then obviously, those odds can change depending on your chance to have like some backdoor high equity as well.
Right.
But that's like a good rule of thumb. Like if you're getting better than 5 to 1, then you should peel for your backdoor lows, and then it goes up from there if you have like an uncounterfeitable. So if like common situation might be like 2 broadways and a low card, maybe let's say like king queen 7 or something like that,
Yep.
and you have like 1 2 3, then your odds don't have to be 5 to 1. They only need to be 3 to 1.
Right. Did you fold pocket 9s this hand?
No! Oh, brutal.
Sorry.
I'm pretty sure I just cost Reg like $100. God damn it. I'm on massive tilt now. So gross. I wish you wouldn't have told me.
That's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. It's so funny that I took the other 9 so far.
Yeah.
And then this one's I fold him pre. I think we can peel with this hand. I think this is a hand that not too many people defend, but I think most people are under defending. And then on this particular board, we can peel with a pair and a straight draw. And I'm pretty sure we're just going to call down if we can make 2 pair. That's not the best card.
Yeah. Not the 2 pair.
That's going to hurt a lot of, our chances of making good 2 pair. The fact that it goes check is interesting. I think we can bet here, and I kind of think that we have a scooper, given that he checks
probably
turn.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. He had like the absolute worst possible low.
Yeah.
And he had an A high.
Emergency lows work out sometimes.
They do, and have emergency lows bailed me out of a lot of spots.
I love high low so much. I tripped across it a couple of years ago in one of the rooms here in Calgary that normally is just dealer's choice, which basically just turns into almost entirely pot limit Omaha, occasionally crazy pineapple, which is the worst effing game ever. Oh,
I agree. It's not a great game. I think it's like mildly interesting.
Well, the way they do it here is they mix it so that Hold'em is no limit, pineapple or crazy pineapple are no limit, but Omaha is pot limit. So the way the crazy pineapple it goes is basically you're going for a ride with every pocket pair bigger than 8s. So good luck sorting that variance out. You got these guys that unconsciously understand that they're fish in Omaha, so they somehow think that when there's one less card, they're just getting an edge. Ugh.
So real quick, I flat this because we have low cards only, and like if we had any high equity, if the 6 were like a jack,
yeah.
I think I would 3-bet this, but I like just flatting this. It's like the push-pull principle of split pot games, where if you have a one-way hand, you want to be pulling people in. If you have a two-way hand, then you want to be pushing people.
Okay.
We can call here with our flush draw and our backdoor low. When we get check raised, it's not great. There's a good chance we're up against better clubs, so we kind of need to make a low card on the turn. And it checks. Yeah, I think we just have to find a fold here because the chances that this player, Rabbit Hole, is check calling clubs, like 9 high clubs or Queen 10 of clubs or something like that, is too good. Hopefully we can see a showdown.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I have a feeling he made like 2 pair with clubs or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. So it looks like the 1-2 game is going to go. So I'm going to sit out of this guy.
100, 200. Whew.
And I will switch over the stream at the earliest convenience.
Yeah, no problem.
But I got to take my free hands. I'm too much of a nit to walk away from free hands in any game. All right. League table. All right, so. Share screen. All right, let's play. Can I make this bigger? I think I can make this a little bigger.
Deck.
Is that visible?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yes.
good. Yeah, it's really good.
Cool. All right. Because we have low cards only, and like if we had any high equity, if the 6 were like a jack,
Yeah.
I think I would 3-bet this, but I like just flatting this.
Okay. Did you do something with your mic? You just got really quiet.
Split pot games. I just stopped speaking.
Oh, that's
I
good.
am hearing a little bit of
that's the string
of
itself.
feedback from a previous.
Yeah, there we go. I think we fixed it.
All right. This folds to me on the button. Like pretty much two wheel cards and 2 big cards is like an auto raise on the button.
Okay.
I can't think of any hand which that has 2 wheel cards and 2 cards 9 or bigger that I'm not going to play. Because we don't have a single club in our hand, I think I like checking this back.
Uh-huh.
And I think we'll continue like on high cards, high turns. And I think that might just be a give up card if he bets it. We'll just take this showdown. Hopefully we can get to.
We got another $20 donation on Poker Stars.
Oh,
Add 40 to the list.
The problem with this spot is like what my hand looks like and why he would bet. So if he checks flop, checks turn, it's really hard for him to have flushes.
Yeah.
He could confidently bet like ace 5 and know it's good. Trying to think the highs he can have here. I think he would bet 4-5. I think it's hard for him to have straight. If it's hard for him to have straight and it's hard for him to have flush, I think I have to call with 9s and 3s. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Ace 4 is stronger than I expected. I think like I think he should barrel like.
The turn, yeah.
Like he knows he has the best low there so often, and when you know you have the best low, you can bet with reckless abandon.
Yeah.
This is
That's
easy
like such
raise.
Disappointing 4th card.
Oh man, short-handed. This hand's as good as gold.
Yeah, fair enough.
It is amazing how much the hand strengths change, like 9-handed versus 6-handed.
Yeah, I suppose
Like
I'm
this hand
used
would
to
be-
thinking of in terms of like pot limit high-low. It's a game that you can play crazy tight in too. So especially when
totally.
it's more than 6-handed. So I'm used to making my ranges as like airtight as possible. And I'm like,
Sure,
oh, that's a 3-card hand. Bye.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's one of the problems with PL08, and I think that's why it never became. I remember when it was called the game of the future, like 8 or 9 years ago. I think we should check here and just realize our equity. I expect to have this pair be beat. Oh wow!
Scoop.
Yeah, the turn's really close. The problem is I don't want to check or bet, get check raised.
You can just pull that shit out. So.
These hands are easy to play. This
Yeah.
is bet, and never stop betting. The only time these hands get interesting is when you are raised and it's like a decision on whether or not to call or put in 3 bets.
For sure.
This is going to be like I would not feel comfortable putting in a lot of bets on this flop if I got like lots of pushback.
Right.
Just because I have 4 high hearts and it's really easy for me to be up against like ace deuce of hearts.
They're just blockers
Or-
at best.
Yeah, or ace deuce in a pair. This is right on the borderline. I think I would open this 1 seat further. Like I don't think I open this UTG. The 3 wheel cards are nice, but I just don't want to be opening it from so early because I don't have an ace in my hand. So when I open this, it's more likely that I'm going to get 3 bet behind me. Whereas if I'm not opening it into as many seats, it's not going to be as bad, if that makes sense. Or rather, it reduces the likelihood that I'm going to get 3 bet.
Yeah.
Because you'd be surprised how often when you open a hand in 08 that doesn't have an ace in it, how often you're going to run into a really strong hand. So you have to be careful that you're not opening into too many people.
Fat Kids Slow Roll in the chat says, "Hey Barber, ACR needs the dig your opponent's hand off the muck option to check reads."
This is a really close spot. I think the double suitedness is going to make this okay as a peel. I think I might fold this if it were Badoogie.
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of. Not having a club sucks here. I was thinking, if I had at least 1 club, I think I might lead this. Now we're definitely betting. And it's hard to get scooped here, and we want to put him in a really tough spot.
Yeah.
I think he has a lot of checkbacks if we check. And I think we have some scoop potential here. Wow. I'm really surprised by his line. I think he risks winning less by taking that line, but it worked out for him. We would bet the second nut low here with a pair. I'm going to continue firing because that's what I would do with my range in this spot. And I think check call is best here. I think that's going to be okay.
Man.
I'm really surprised he bet the hand that he did. Like that's not a good bet. He should just take the free showdown. But it worked out. I think he thinks that my hand is 1 pair there, and like if he bets that I'm going to fold 1 pair.
Right.
If I had to guess what his logic was. This hand seems like total dust, but like this is a totally fine button open. This is a good flop. I mean, this is as good as it gets. Top and bottom and a low draw. I think it's okay to put in a raise here just because the high equity that he's going to have here isn't going to be that great.
Yeah.
Like if you give him like ace 3-4, like maybe one of the best flops he could have here, or aces, like he just doesn't have that much high equity. We'll take it. We'll take this turn card. 9.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Oh.
Take it.
This isn't 9 or better?
It should be. That game's
thought I was
amazing.
serious. He's like, what a fish. He's like, 8 or better for sure.
Alright. So we're gonna 3-bet this. And our range for 3-betting here is going to be like big pairs with low cards. So like King King XX, Queen Queen XX, where XX is like a couple wheel cards.
Right.
And then definitely like any Ace Broadway, like Deuce 3 or maybe 4. I think we mixed in like an Ace King 9-4 earlier. But that's going to be pretty much our range for 3-betting. I think we can bet again here. It wouldn't surprise me if we got check raised, but I think we need to protect versus like, yeah, it's okay if we get check raised because we have good equity versus just about everything. Deuce, ball. So he check raises and then he's checking turn. I feel like he's just gonna have 2 pair here, and I don't think I can get him to fold 2 pairs. So we're just gonna check back. I would expect to see like Queen 10 or something like that, or Queen 5. That makes sense. That makes sense as well. We have tremendous equity versus that hand, so it's like it's not even bad to bet, and it's not bad to bet call.
Right.
I would have taken a free one if we didn't have a low draw to go with it. So like I'm never betting naked aces there without anything behind it.
For sure.
Because it's just such a bad turn for our range, and our opponents are going to check raise every time they have better than 1 pair. This is close. I think I'm going to fold this, but I would raise it if the 7 were a 5.
Yeah.
That's kind of my cutoff here, is I need to have like queens with 2 cards, 5 or lower.
Yeah,
The 7-3 is going to be
rainbow
tough to play.
queens don't seem that attractive.
Do you play a lot of other mixed games as well, Andrew?
Yeah, I play. So I was just in Arizona recently, and I played an OE game at Talking Stick.
Okay.
I definitely like all the horse games. I've gotten more into Triple Draw in the last few years.
Yeah.
I like all split pot games, so I really like Badoosie and Badacey. There's a game that I fell in love with over the summer called Dramaha. I don't know if you guys are
I
familiar
love
with that.
Dramaha.
I think Aaliyah's played a little bit of it.
I played it with Jason Somerville. It's like so much fun.
Dramaha's the nuts, dude. It's crack.
So
It's the
good.
crack of poker.
And Taiwanese. Have you played Taiwanese?
I have not.
Oh my god. Jason Somerville, like basically that's all he plays now.
Yeah, I've played a little bit of Taiwanese and it's pretty fun. It's a different version of like Chinese poker, I guess, kind of thing.
I figured as much. So what's the difference?
You have a 1-card hold'em hand, then you set a 2-card hold'em hand, and then you have a 4-card Omaha hand.
And then you run the flop turn river, and then you get points against other people's hands.
Yeah, and then it just pretty much runs the rest of the way, just like Chinese, I guess. But
Okay, so I'm gonna flat pretty much any 4 low cards in this spot, and then I'll probably flat some high rundowns as well.
yeah,
I'm only 3-betting like my very premiums in this spot. Okay, so a line that I like to take in this spot where I have a low draw and a pair is I like to lead here. And what this does is it's going to give me the best chance at cleaning up my equity versus better high hands, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Like, I really would love to have, like, if Big Balls, if this guy right here, I was just about to read his name, Big Balls Carl. If this guy were, had a king, like, we would love for him to be in a really tough spot with 1 pair.
right.
That's an awful turn card.
For sure.
But we're pretty much just going to be check calling now that we're heads up and we've got 2 pair and a low. Interesting. It goes check check. All right, we have the ace of clubs. If we bet here, we can't ever get raised, I think.
I think you're right.
Ship the cheddar.
Wow.
The reason so that looks like a really light call, and it probably is, but the reason he can make that call is because my hand is going to look like ace 3 or ace 4.
Right.
And if he puts me on low some decent percentage of the time, it's going to have to be a lot of the time for him to make that call.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree with his raise on the flop though? Like, to me that seems.
No, I think the raise in the flop is really bad.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking.
I think he should wait for like safe turns and like and spike gin on the
Right.
turn.
Yeah.
Before putting in more. This is one of those spots where I think I'm going to throw like barrel once, like a 0 equity bluff.
Yeah.
And just give up
Yeah,
to
check
any
your
resistance. Yeah, that's a tough spot. It's like when you get the 3 high card, deciding how many hands to be bluffing with. Having ace 6 high is probably one of my worst hands there, so that's a good candidate.
For sure.
This is a hand that I could go either way between 3 betting and calling with. I like calling because of the double suited nature and like my flush draws are good. And I can make like straights with these cards. So I think it's a hand I kind of don't mind playing multi-way.
Mm-hmm.
I will be taking a free one. Yeah, we cannot continue on this. The 5-6 is just not good enough here. I would expect our low draw to be owned a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Plus, we don't have any spades. It's really possible he has spades here. Although I don't know how many flush draws he's checking on the flop. This one's marginal. Man, am I glad I didn't see that flop.
We got you in trouble.
We would have run into a wheel with a pair of flush draw.
Raj that in the chat says, would Andrew rather have a fist fight with Aaliyah or his mother?
What? What?
Or my own mother.
Yeah.
So
Who asked these questions? Oh my god.
it's my mother, and it's not even close. My mom and I just visited them. I was just in Florida visiting my family for Christmas, and my parents are like really strong conservatives. Like I grew up around Fox News being on 24/7.
Right.
Um, and we actually got into a fight about politics over dinner while I was visiting them. And it was so loud, like other people in the restaurant were like turning away from their dinner conversation to listen to us.
It's funny because the next question was, can
Uh,
you explain Trump's tax plan?
oh man, I was hoping we might get a little political. Let's see if I can focus on this. So I need to bet
player
this
hand
hand.
first.
Yeah. I'm trying to decide if this is really close. This is very, very close. I think this is a check because I don't want to get raised by I'm pipped on the low, and he has like slightly better two pair.
Mm-hmm.
This is very, very close though. Yeah. Wow. It's exactly what he's because he pipped on the low and he rivers better two pair. Okay, so Trump's tax plan. Trump's tax plan does not make sense if the goal of the tax plan is A, to simplify the tax code, which it doesn't, and B, to grow the economy, which it shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's a chance that like the growth could be. I mean, I don't know how wonkish I should get on this stream, but it would have been like pretty like GTO for him to just like cut taxes on people who made like under 200K a year and leave the other tax brackets the same, or maybe even make a new tax bracket for people who make like over $1 million or 2 million or 5 million.
Right.
But they did not go that direction. In spots like this where you flop trips, you should just lead because you don't want to give free cards. And if nobody else has like, if I don't lead this, I would expect it to check through a lot. And I'm going to keep betting here because I don't want to like indicate that I don't have a flush. All right. That's a good card.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's been cool to see poker players like caring more about this. Like I think that poker players are becoming not only conscious of like charity stuff, but like are starting to care about social justice things.
Right.
I see like Daniel's gotten more political over the last year or two. Doug Polk has gotten into politics and has gotten, I guess, criticized as a result. Tom Dwan will periodically come out of nowhere and say something really intelligent about political stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like all the crushers like have these really insightful opinions about politics, and what's unfortunate is that a lot of them get trolled for it, and it's amazing how the elites in poker are so revered when it comes to poker. However, as soon as they step outside of that domain, everyone thinks that they're complete idiots.
Right.
Like Doug Polk is clearly an amazing poker player, and he offers his 2 cents on something having to do with Trump or politics or taxes, and all of a sudden people lose respect for him. And you would think that someone who's managed to become one of the best in the world at something might have some really good ideas about other stuff.
For sure.
That doesn't seem to be the opinion that people hold.
Someone else said they're a former Nolan Hold'em player who makes questionable PLO decisions, and they want to know the easiest mixed game to get started with.
Oh, that's a really good question. It does seem like Hold'em players have trouble making the transition to PLO. Maybe we should tell them Crazy Pineapple. That's not too far off. No, that game does suck though. Let's see here. Best transition from Hold'em. I mean, I'm inclined to say Omaha High Low. I think that I see a lot of people making that transition. I think there's a reason that casinos spread, like the natural next game to spread after Hold'em is either PLO or Omaha High-Low.
Right.
And I think Omaha High-Low protects players a little bit more than PLO, which tends to play pretty big and can often break bankrolls.
For sure.
So yeah, I would say I think 08's a reasonable game to add to the mix.
Yeah.
It's definitely the best. It's definitely the best split pot game to have exposure to.
Yeah. Were you self-taught, or is there like software out for Omaha 8?
No, I was totally self-taught. There's been a few books written over the years. I tend to think they're pretty bad, but they're good for someone who just wants to get some exposure, like literally learn the rules. There's the famous Hutchinson point system, which kind of literally comes up with a point system for deciding whether or not hands are playable. That's kind of a good starting point.
Okay.
And then once you learn that, the next thing you should do is burn it and never pay attention to it ever again, because it asks that people play too tight or to not think about the dynamics of, how do I want to say this? Hand equities are going to change based on the number of players in the hand. So like ace deuce 3, ace deuce 3 has different value in a heads up pot versus like a 5-way pot.
Right.
And most books that I've seen on the subject, literally I know all books I've seen on the subject, don't distinguish between heads up pots and multi-way pots. And I think they do players a disservice, because not only are your hand equities different because of card removal.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you think about, if 5 people have playable hands, there's not going to be a lot of low cards left in the deck. There's certainly not going to be any aces left in the deck.
No.
But in addition to that, like the hand is going to the hand is going to behave differently than it would in a heads up pot. Like heads up hands are really easy to play, comparatively speaking.
For sure.
Let's see here. I think I'm gonna fold this. The 6s make this really tough to defend. But yeah, no, it was like Omaha. There's still not a lot of resources out there, but there were even fewer then, and I kind of just it was trial by fire and kind of jump into the pool and learn how to swim.
Yeah.
And a lot of the ideas that I kind of stumbled upon, I think, have become more common. Like a great example is one of the most popular games at the World Series every summer is the 75-150 Omaha High-Low.
Okay.
And it's a game that's been going for something like 25 years. And for a long time, it was perceived to be the softest game of the series. Like people would travel to the series just to play that game for the whole summer.
Right.
And I mean, it made a number of it made a number of people a lot of money for a lot of years. And that was kind of the game that got me started in like 2010 or 2011. And a lot of the stuff that I was doing, it seemed like I was the only one doing it. Like I was playing a lot of unorthodox hands, and I was like defending the big and the kill a lot more than other people. And then it seemed in the next couple of years that everybody started doing what I was doing. Right. And I don't want to take a lot of credit for that, because I think that a lot of these ideas were discovered by people that were playing in the biggest game on Stars. I guess it still runs, but pre-Black Friday it was really popular, was the 75-150 on there.
Okay.
And, a group of players started to have, at the same time, like a very different understanding of the game than people had in years prior. And I guess you could say that like that's true of a lot of poker variants, that people have kind of like learned how to play PLO more than they had 10 years ago, or Hold'em's being played at a higher level now than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's a thing. Like, Hold'em used to be so weak, right, when it first came out, and now like it's tough to find weak Hold'em games as much as you were used to. And I think it's turning a lot of people into these mixed games.
Exactly. I mean, like for example, in Omaha High-Low, I don't know how I stumbled across this, but I was looking something up, and something related to Omaha High Low, and I found an article that was, I think it was an interview with Daniel Negreanu, and Daniel Negreanu said like Omaha High Low is a math game and is not a bluffing game. And I thought that was so funny because it so perfectly encapsulates how people have thought about Omaha High Low until recently. And I think that the state of the game now is like identifying the few spots where you need to be bluffing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's definitely a handful of spots where, excuse me, where good players are bluffing and bad players are not.
Who do you think is the best mixed player in the game right now? Is there someone that stands out?
That's so tough. There's so many people at the top of that list.
Right.
Jesus. I mean, I'm afraid to open my mouth because I'm going to forget someone and that person's going to text me tomorrow and they're going to be like, what the hell? Why did you not show me any love? I'm just so fortunate that I can count a lot of them as my friends.
For sure. Do you find that you, like,
I mean, I
learn a lot from each other?
Oh, totally. I mean, like, I get to be in various Skype groups and WhatsApp groups, and, text with friends and Skype with friends and Twitter with friends, and I get to run hand histories on any game under the sun.
Absolutely.
With some of the best people, some of the best players of those games. So that's been really helpful. I mean, that's the best advice you could ever give anyone. If you want to get good at poker, you just have to be friends with people who are already good.
We've had a couple people on our stream say that already too. So.
Pardon?
We've had a couple people on our stream say that. I think Ryan LaPlante mentioned, because he does a lot of coaching, and I asked him, like, how do you keep up with coaching and new metas of the game and all that kind of stuff, and he said he has a wide range of friends that he's able to talk to.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. That's how Team Germany got so good.
Yep.
I mean, those guys are all working hard together.
For sure.
And you can see that in other pockets. Like I definitely feel like I don't know how much I've contributed, but my friends and I have kind of all improved at the same time by sharing hand histories. I mean, I guess I would say that the contribution that I make is I usually am the guy people come to for this game, for Omaha High Low, and in exchange for providing help in this game, people will help me with other games. So like one time I swapped coaching, 08 coaching for Hold'em coaching with Stephen Chidwick.
Okay.
And Stephen Chidwick is like one of the best, no limit Hold'em tournament players in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I got the best of it there.
For sure. You see him at every
but then he,
so.
Yeah, but then he ended up taking like my coaching and he fired like I think it was Scoop or something. He won like the 08 Scoop like a week later or something like that. But it was so funny the way he told me. He totally slow rolled me. He's like, "Hey, so about that coaching, I was the first person to bust the high Scoop for 08." I was like, "Oh, sorry, dude. Like that's brutal, but there's variance and blah blah blah." I'm making all these excuses, and he's like, "Oh, but I won the mid." It's so hard to be good here.
Yeah.
It's so hard to be good here. Yeah. He should really only be leading wheels here. Or 4-6. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's kind of brutal.
Pardon me.
I think I'm going to peel one time here. That was really close.
Yeah,
That was
one pip.
that's a tough spot. If he bets river, I don't think I can call. It's
Right.
really hard for me to call. All right, let's peel. All right. Versus a hand that's 3-betting out of the small, we should raise here because we're gonna have a pretty big range advantage.
Right.
It's kind of a brutal turn card. It's pretty hard for us to be good, given that we raise flop and he leads turn. Yeah, because he can literally never have a low here. He's going high.
Mm-hmm.
I feel comfortable folding here. But... yeah, if you just think about the way that hand went down, it's just like so hard for him to have worse than us. So I'm scrolling through the Twitch chat, and the question about self-taught or is there software like PIO? You know what's funny is I actually kind of one of my side projects is I've wanted to work on like solving Omaha high-low the way that you know, limit hold'em and no limit hold'em has been solved.
Yeah.
I always thought that would be kind of a fun thing, and I kind of want to solve it for selfish reasons. Like I really want to play like a GTO bot, because I think it'd be really cool to play one. I a couple years ago, I had a friend that wrote like a neural net that was working on deuce to 7.
Okay.
And I got my ass kicked by a bot that played heads up deuce to 7, limit heads up triple draw.
Nice.
But yeah, I always thought that would be cool to make an 08 bot that would beat up on me and make me better.
Crummy nines.
We got a peel here.
Shoot for a 9 on the flop.
Let's ask for 2. Keep it simple.
9-9. Quads, please.
I'm not too greedy. I'll just take 1-9. And then 2 5s. Wow, that's dust. That's complete dust.
Back to our quad draw.
We're getting punished. We're getting punished for the 9s today.
Might still lose. Well, to be fair, you're kind of supposed to get punished with 9s all the time in this game.
Touche, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, 9s was always the example I remember from Dan Deppin's book on pot limit high-low, where basically it just illustrates the point of why do you want to set when the only thing you're going to get action from is hands that you're vulnerable to.
Exactly. That's a really good point. It's like when I do flop a set in this game. I mean, if you remember the hand where like we got paid off by one pair, where the guy raised a king high board with 2 hearts, where he had like a king and nut hearts. I feel like that's similar to a set in that spot, and a lot of people will raise that, and you're never in a great spot versus the hands that are going to be calling you or giving you.
You're either just going to take it down because you're dominating, or like okay, you get action against the stuff that you're going to have trouble with.
So we have a much we hit this flop a lot harder than the razor, so we're going to lead this flop.
Mm-hmm.
We would lead this flop with a variety of hands. We would lead it with like straights, pairs, all of our flush draws. We would leave it a jack, so we're going to bet it again. to fire again.
Ew.
Man. Yeah.
The good thing about that spot is I think he's not folding any flushes, so he's going to have some low flushes that pay us off.
Right.
If he's just calling with the nut flush, then we know even when we're beat, we're only losing one bet. And if we brick the river, then we're going to win that hand because he's drawing as well. So I think all in all, it's a fine way to play the hand. And if we check, we're going to be calling a bet, so we should be betting the river anyway because we can get called by worse periodically.
Right. How often do you find yourself playing online? Is it like a daily
School takes
thing,
up a lot of my time. I probably play maybe like 5 to 10 hours a week or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in a point. Well, so I kind of have more free time with school than I have in the years past. So I'm like in the third year of my PhD,
Right.
and the first 2 years it's you're taking courses, and now I'm in like the research phase, so it's like more self-directed. So I should have more time to play, but I also try to limit myself so I can actually get some shit done. I have a real problem with not getting shit done. Looks like it was a good day for Bitcoin. Who's holding?
Very
Me.
small amount
I
holding.
got some. I bought more the other day too.
Nice.
I have less than 100. I have almost 100 Bitcoin pennies.
To the moon.
Exactly. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
We have a $100
I'm
donation
gonna-
on the charity drive website for us, so
Nice.
I'm gonna add that in.
There we go.
Adam Hutchison, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. He was the one I made the pocket nines bet with.
Okay.
It's a decent run out. Let's go. So I bet middle pair there. If I didn't catch like such clean cards on the turn and river, I was probably going to check back turn, like try to get to showdown as cheaply as possible.
Yeah.
Betting the flop kind of just makes the whole hand easier to play.
Right.
Because if I check flop and then I brick turn and then he bets into me, it's like kind of, you know, what I do. Am I bluff catching with his hand?
Mm-hmm.
What do I do? I think that if there's one, if there's, I don't want to use that phrase. If there's one thing. One of the things that I have realized the more I play this game is, I think that the power of position is so important in this more than other games.
Absolutely.
And I think it comes from like you wouldn't say that about Limit Hold'em. I don't think,
No.
because
Less
it just seems like it's
variables.
not going to be as true. But there's so much more like pot size manipulation in this game as opposed to Limit Hold'em. So like in '08, there's very much a strategy of, you know, how do I take advantage of the fact that this is a small bet street, or I've got a backdoor low draw, and I know that I don't want to have to put in a bet on the turn to get there, so let me bet flop so I can check back turn. So there's so much of that going on that I think it's just really important to have a game plan for the hand, and that's something I'm constantly thinking about is how do I see the rest of this hand playing out.
Do you play a lot in California?
Yeah, so I'm like a half hour, 40 minutes from San Jose, so I've got Bay 101 and Matrix.
Okay.
This is a good high only hand to mix in
Yeah.
from the button. Just good to have some high hands on the button so you can play high only boards. So this is like kind of the discussion we had earlier about like flush draws or sets. Like this is a spot where even if we're ahead, it's not by much.
Yeah.
So we're gonna play this passively and hopefully catch a good turn card. That's kind of a good card for us. I think I want to bluff this card. And we'll just get there.
Boom.
So it's not even a problem. It's not even a problem.
No big deal.
It's easy when you know it's coming.
How much of a delay are we on?
3 minutes, I believe.
Okay. So don't go into the tank for 3 minutes.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah, someone wanted to know like what the best place to play in California was. Do you have any recommendations that are you?
Oh my
prefer
God,
one casino?
there's so many. There's so many.
Right.
I mean, Bay 101 and Matrix are two amazing places to play in San Jose. I mean, California is a huge state.
For sure.
Southern California has a lot of rooms. I'm hearing good things about Hawaiian Gardens. Commerce and Biker have always been like, legendary
Yeah.
places to play. California has this interesting, and for people who aren't aware, California has like this carve out for in the laws for card rooms, not casinos. So it's just basically these tiny rooms in which you can spread poker and like nothing else, or like poker and blackjack, and they tend to be like between like 3 and 10 tables. And there's a handful of those around the Bay Area. So when he bet 3-bets this, he probably has ace deuce with hearts, and depending on what his other cards are, we're probably a slight dog, so we're just going to call here.
Yeah.
I think on this particular turn we can raise because I think the equity shifts our way here. And then I think we can bet here for value and expect to get 3/4 here a decent amount of the time.
Yeah. Just like you said.
Yes,
So that is not a hand he should be putting in 3-bets with on the flop. That's
No.
real bad.
Yeah.
I think his hand is like maybe he can play it more aggressively if he's in position,
Yeah.
but it's so hard for him to play that hand well when he's out of position and I'm calling his 3-bet. Like I'm going to dictate which cards are good for me. It's just going to be so hard for him to play that hand. I just don't. I think out of position he should be playing that hand like a little bit more deceptively.
We have a crypto
Unless he's
question
trying
in
some.
the chat.
Oh, go ahead.
He wants to know. He says, "Are you balls deep in alt too, or are you a BTC maximalist?"
BTC maximalist with some Ethereum. I don't fuck with alts. I think it requires a lot of time. I do think there's a lot of value to alts. Like I definitely have friends that are playing the alt market, and especially if you don't have a lot of funds, it's a great way to ratchet up the amount of Bitcoin you're holding. Because for those who aren't familiar, like kind of the play with alts typically is that you buy a bunch of alts when they're worth very little, and then you pump them and you ride them up, until they've 2, 3, or 4x their value,
Right.
and then you sell them off for Bitcoin, and now you have more Bitcoin in your profile or your portfolio, and it's kind of a rinse and repeat strategy. And I've heard stories of people taking 1 Bitcoin up to like 20 Bitcoins from rinsing and repeating that strategy over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be quite lucrative, but it does require time, and you have to time your entry and exit so much. I'm lazy, but I also like fundamentally believe that Bitcoin is going to change the world, and I don't think that alts are going to survive. Like I think there's, I'm totally willing to update my opinion on this, but I think that within 5 years, I actually have a prop bet with Dutch Boyd on this very subject, that I think 5 years from now, all the alts are going to go to zero except for maybe like 5 to 10 of them.
Right.
I feel comfortable betting this hand, even though a lot of people check this back, but I think we should be betting this because we want to put him in a really tough spot with his high hands that are better than ours.
Right.
So we're just going to barrel off here, I think. It's going to be really hard for him to have a scooper. And this is an interesting spot. If he had a scooper versus us, he would be leading river. So it's just a matter of whether we're 3/4ing him more often than we're getting 3/4, and I think we 3/4 him more often.
Okay.
But it's only a small percentage of the time. So yeah, that's my crypto philosophy. I think people should buy as much Bitcoin as they can afford to, and hold on for dear life.
Right.
555.
Phone?
555.
555?
Yep. From BG.
Awesome. We have a $555 donation coming in right now.
Sweet.
From
Thank-
Mr. BG Ryan.
BG, thank you so much.
All right, I'm gonna peel here one time. There's a lot of turn cards that we could work with. That is not one of them.
Let's go. $18,704.87.
We're getting close to the 20K mark. I think we'll keep you on here for another 5 minutes, and then I think Jason Somerville's getting ready to call in, so he'll be our next guest on the day.
Yeah, it's a thin raise right there. Probably shouldn't have raised. Don't have ace 2-6. Don't have ace 2-6. Okay. Whew. Faded a free roll.
Yeah.
There's that.
All right, let's catch some heat at the end of this session.
Yeah. Spin it up.
Quads.
I
Quads.
Quads.
hit a steel wheel earlier.
Nice.
Straight up float.
Hello.
Bing. Straight flush to the 5.
Oh my god. Let's run that a million times.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, so how much am I matching so far?
I think Aaliyah's adding it up.
So far,
Yeah.
got a list. $705.
$705.
All right, I could swing that. I think we can peel here.
Pardon me.
That is not the best turn card. Man, I wish that 6 were like a 9 or a 10.
Yeah.
Like in spots like this where you have a raise and a re-raise,
Yeah.
it's that situation where you have card removal where you think it's more likely the high cards are coming.
Right.
I'm kind of glad it's four-handed. I really prefer 3 and 4-handed.
Yeah. Do they even run many 8-handed games anymore?
They do. I mean, I can't stand them.
Yeah.
These are always fun spots. He's gonna have ace deuce so often. How often is my? Yeah, I don't think the 5's strong enough to call here. Pretty much peeling the turn to try to make 2 pair or counterfeit his low.
Mm-hmm.
We like to mix in the occasional bluff here.
I'll take half there.
Yeah, it's kind of gross though, because like by making a low, that's what loses us half the pot.
Right.
And you can see the value based on what he peeled the flop with, like why it's valuable to bluff there.
Right.
This is a standard peel.
My name ain't Earl in the chat said, hopefully Aaliyah factored in the markup, because Andrew loves markup.
Yeah, that was like my first issue. That's gross. Yeah, I wrote an article maybe like 3 years ago.
Okay.
I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Is the audio playing through something?
It shouldn't be. You're hearing feedback from our end?
Yeah, like I'm hearing myself through your.
Oh, weird.
I mean, I could just suck it up and hear myself.
We didn't change anything, I don't think.
Anyway, I wrote an article on markup in the marketplace like 3 years ago, and people took an interest in it. And I did Joe Ingram's show when he first started, and Doug Polk talked about it on his like news video feed or something. But basically, there's like some math that can show that players have an incentive to kind of play worse as they sell more, or they can get away with playing worse. Oops.
Oh, did you have this door open on purpose?
Big balls card.
So, what thoughts do you guys have on the World Series schedule that came out?
Well, I personally am probably not even working this summer. I think I'm gonna take it off, and I might actually play a bit. So, pretty excited about that. But as a reporter, if I was the one, working all summer, it seems like a long schedule. But I think so I heard some people saying that some of the events at the end of this the schedule, might conflict, or maybe some of the bigger players might not stick around for it.
Yeah, the idea of having events after the main is so interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes sense to do that. So, like, there's so many people that are still there.
Right.
But I definitely sympathize with those who are responsible for creating the schedule, because it seems like you're always going to piss somebody off.
Yeah, for sure. I think them not having a break in between the final table of the main is interesting as well. I liked what they went to last year, just having a couple days break. But then this year, I guess they're running it straight through, and
totally.
I think that's just You know, people don't want to be coming. It'd be different if they were not having a break and they weren't playing 12 hours a day. But when you're there for 12 hours a day for 9 or 10 days straight, it's probably, I don't know, are you really playing your best poker? And that's what people want to see, right?
I mean, I definitely don't like the super long delay
Right.
where everybody gets coached and edges are diminished.
I agree.
And if we want poker to be seen as a sport, which a lot of people do, I think, then I think that incentivizing people to kind of keep their stamina up or to treat it like a sport and take it seriously.
For sure.
I mean, that's what, like, the cream rises to the top when you can play your A-level poker for the entire summer.
Right.
A guy like Mike Leah, who seems to be just a robot who never gets tired.
Yeah. Alright, we're gonna watch this last hand and then I think we're gonna say our goodbyes.
We got Jason Somerville on deck, though, but it's been awesome seeing 100, 200 high-low on stream. I mean, don't really see that much.
Yeah, sorry I booked a loss. It was not the best session.
That's okay. I think you give a lot of insight into the game, and it's kind of like what people are looking into. I think a lot of people find it interesting to hear what someone who plays this game on a regular basis has to say, and yeah, it's awesome to see.
Yeah, and if anyone who's watching has any questions about what Reg does or effective altruism, please tweet at me or add me on Facebook. I'm always happy to talk about it.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thanks
so much. We really appreciate you being here with us. Looking forward to keeping in touch and, you know, hopefully doing more with Red Charity and yourself and, you know, trying to incorporate it in poker in general. It's been great.
Yeah. Awesome.
You're quite welcome, and thank you for arranging this.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Talk
Bye.
to you soon.